Our very special guests from Moscow, Vadim and Konstantin. And we're very happy also to see Anton Drell with us, and of course, Bob Amsterdam. I want to pay special attention to Pavel Khodorkovsky, who's joined us this evening, and through him and through our other channels sent his father our very best hopes and wishes. Thank you for joining us. So why don't we welcome Vadim first.
I'd like to convey some very recent, very fresh greetings from Mikhail Khodorkovsky. He asked me to convey to you his wishes that hopefully when the new administration is in place, irrespective of which of the two possible administrations it will be, your authorities will strike the right balance between the economy and fundamental and universal human values. And that you will not let them forget that universal human values, fundamental values, are a priority for all times. Briefly on the new charges, which are not really that new anymore, they will soon be 2 years old. Yet those charges still qualify as new because fortunately there are not any newer charges. And we hope that the current charges will be the last charges. The charges contain approximately 150 pages. When you try and describe those 150 pages, it's just raving drivel, hair-splitting and mind-splitting, and with an unhealthy dose of schizophrenia on top. Which, as absurd as they are, the charges, should they prove to be confirmed, corroborated and confirmed by the court, are likely to add a considerable amount of prison time to the defendants, which is why they are so tragic. What the charges are about, and that is basically something that's criminal from the legal perspective, what the investigating and prosecutorial authorities have done in those charges is artificially criminalizing activities that constitute nothing but perfectly sound, legitimate, and widely practiced commercial activities. Everything that happened at the company for a period of 6 years was declared in those charges as criminal conduct. Everything starting from production all the way to the end sales of oil. Allegedly, that conduct was engaged in by a so-called organized group, and again, allegedly, it involved not just the entire output of the company and its activities for 6 years, but every single person who was employed by the company is involved by association in that so-called criminal conduct. The period in question lasted from 1998 through 2003 inclusive, and according to the charges, the entire oil production of Yukos was embezzled by the organized group. Again, according to the charges, the entire proceeds from the sales of crude and oil products was embezzled, misappropriated by this so-called organized group, and eventually money laundered, both domestically and outside the Russian Federation. Not only the charges claim that the entire oil produced over the 6-year period was embezzled, but when it comes to specific numbers, the amount of embezzlement quoted in the charges, in fact, exceeds the actual production of Yukos in that 5-year period. So at this point, I don't want to dilute the impact of what has just been said about the charges. I will wrap up and only say one more thing, and that is that the defendants are accused of committing something that not only never happened, but as a matter of fact could have never possibly happened under any circumstances. That, however, does create another major problem, because as counterintuitive as it seems, the very absurdity of the charges makes it very difficult to defend against them.
Mr. Rivkin, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to explain here that I represent Platon Lebedev, who is a friend and a business associate of Mikhail Khodorkovsky. The oil company Yukos, of course, had a fairly well-staffed and competent legal department. And one of the first blows dealt by the Prosecutor's General Office was targeted specifically UKAS's legal department. You are likely to know such names as Vasily Alexanyan, who was the head of the legal department, who currently is almost literally on his deathbed, and he is still being kept in prison in the prison hospital. Another former senior management of the legal department, Dmitry Gololobov, has been forced to leave for London, and he's currently in exile in London. And equally illustrative is what happened to Svetlana Bakhmina, who, of course, is the mother of 2 children and only 4 or 5 weeks away from delivering her third. Despite that situation, the authorities have refused to let her leave the penitentiary. There were a number of prominent lawyers and law firms that worked with UKAS. When UKAS began to be attacked, they also became a target of our opponents.
So I want to give Bob Amsterdam a chance to say a few words before we move upstairs so you can benefit from his experience and what he has to tell us.
Firstly, I want to extend greetings from Karina Moskalenko, who I spoke to a few hours ago. She wanted to make sure all of you knew she was doing all right. She is planning to go back to Moscow and continue the fight. Secondly, we are within days of the 5th anniversary of this tragedy. And it's very difficult to speak about it with Pavel in the audience because it is almost impossible to comprehend what 5 years of someone's life actually means. I was privileged not only to have been at the first trial and see the heroism of my Russian colleagues, but I've been privileged to continue to associate with them and with Mr. Khodorkovsky and Mr. Lebedev, and to witness not only tremendous courage, but to witness what it means and what the word dissident means. Because it is very important to understand that Mr. Khodorkovsky and you, Bob, and the others in this room have been very successful. We need to fully internalize the fact that those who speak this Orwellian language, those who speak these absurdities, are no longer being heard. When Dmitry Medvedev admitted that his country was a country of legal nihilism, Mikhail Khodorkovsky won. It will be some time before he rejoins his family, but we will come to understand that the position and the demonstration of the heroism that was so brilliantly conveyed this evening has managed to do exactly what Václav Havel managed to do a generation ago. Speak to power and give power to those who are powerless. From within that cell, from within a cell that is watched 24 hours a day in the most remote part of Russia, Mikhail Khodorkovsky has brought the Kremlin to admit that there is absolutely no pretense of truth to these allegations. We all know it's a lie, and it is incumbent upon us to take that message to the leaders in Washington of whatever party and make it a precondition of dealing with these people, that we will not accept the same language of falsehood to our own leaders as they are supplying to their own people. There is meaning to the suffering of Mikhail Khodorkovsky. There is meaning to the suffering of Svetlana Bakhmina. There is meaning to the loss of life of Vasily Alexanyan. And it is up to all of us to make sure that meaning is understood in Washington as much as in Moscow. So Pavel, your father's sacrifice will count. It has counted. The President of Russia has admitted it, and we need to go forward and make sure we bring him home to you and the rest of your family. Thank you very much.